Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A new report is shedding light on San Diego County's housing crisis. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The California Housing Partnership says more than 134,000 low-income renters in our region can't find an affordable home. KPBS reporter Melissa May explains why these findings are important as local and state budgets are finalized.
Margot Velez is formerly homeless. She now has housing and says it was very hard to find a place to rent.
When I'm only making $16 an hour, that's impossible. To make 3 times the rent of an average of $2,200 a month for rent, and you can't get anything. And I had 2 children.
Now with the Homeless Experienced Advocacy and Leadership Network, she says having a place to live is critical for mental and physical health.
It's very important to have a home where you can have a decent meal, you can clean yourself.
The average San Diego rent is $2,479 a month. The California Housing Partnership's annual Affordable Housing Needs Report says renters need to earn nearly 3 times the city's minimum wage, or $47.67 an hour, to afford the average rent. That's up 10% from 2022.
These are people we're talking about. These are people's lives, and these are people who go to bed with anxiety every night because they don't know what the future holds for them.
They include many frontline workers. The average wage for San Diego childcare workers, for example, is $18.24 an hour, and medical assistants earn $23.37 an hour on average. San Diego Housing Federation President and CEO Stephen Russell says Mayor Todd Gloria's proposed budget cuts to the city's Housing Commission could make the problem worse.
If they make some of the cuts they're proposing, it could mean that services would be denied to folks who are currently relying on, like, rental subsidies. So I would say you'd see a direct increase in homelessness as a result of some of these cuts, and you would see a lowering of production. Almost immediately, new projects would not move forward.
The San Diego City Council could see a revised budget as soon as next week. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Well, changes are coming to your power bill that could either save you money or cost you money. The California Public Utilities Commission voted today to approve a controversial flat electricity rate. Californians will pay a fixed cost to maintain the grid. Low-income households pay up to $12, and everyone else pays about $24 per month. Customers will be billed a lower usage rate.
So even if you have a new $24 charge, your bill won't be going up by $24. Your bill could be going down by $5 or up by $2, depending on how much electricity you use.
And customers who use a lot of energy for things like air conditioning or charging electric cars will likely see savings. But those who use less electricity or generate their own through solar could see their bill increase. Opponents say with utilities like SDG&E turning record profits, they don't trust them or regulators to keep the rates lower.
They might say that this year, but then next year that's going to go up, and then the year after it's going to go up, because we see the CPUC basically rubber stamp everything that they put forward.
The new change is set to take effect late next year.
Well, I know it's been a little cloudy here. Some of those clouds have even spread through the valleys. Now tonight, we're still tracking those increasing clouds. Now we're going to drop down to a low of 59. Now over these next few days, we're going to track how temperatures swing and also when we could maybe see our next chance for rain.
California is working to harness the power of artificial intelligence. Today, the state announced new agreements with 5 companies. They will create generative AI tools to reduce traffic jams, make roads safer, and provide tax guidance. The companies now enter a 6-month internal trial, that is, where the state will test the tools before deciding whether to launch them. And the Biden administration is proposing a rule that would crack down on migrants who are ineligible to claim asylum. Julia Benbrook is at the White House with a closer look at the potential policy shift.
President Joe Biden is trying to toughen his administration's position on the U.S.-Mexico border and flip the script on Republicans who continue to criticize his immigration policies ahead of the November election. It's a different approach after the bipartisan border deal failed to make it out of the Senate earlier this year.
It's clear as day. Republicans are addicted to using the issue of immigration as a political tool. They are allergic to solving the problem.
The new proposed rule, first reported by Politico, would tighten the current system by allowing immigration officials to quickly reject some migrants from claiming asylum earlier in the process if they're found to be ineligible. The regulation would still need to go through a public comment period. Senate Democrats acknowledged Wednesday that the president was pursuing asylum changes, but noted that without a bill from Congress, making full-scale changes to the asylum system is incredibly difficult.
I know the administration is looking at what they can do administratively, but they and us agree. The best thing to do to deal with the problem on border is pass legislation.
The White House said in February that Biden was considering executive action to restrict migrants' ability to seek asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. Immigration remains a key issue ahead of the 2024 presidential election. A recent CNN poll found that 48% of those surveyed said that it was an extremely important factor in their vote. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
An estimated 8,500 DACA recipients live in San Diego County. Starting on November 1st, they can apply for health coverage under the Affordable Care Act. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco tells us that some advocates question how many will actually enroll.
Nettie Velasquez was brought to the United States from Mexico by her parents when she was 7 years old. She was raised in Escondido and says she's proud of her San Diego roots.
You know, I'm a San Diegan, West Coast represent all the way.
A childhood spleen surgery weakened her immune system. That fueled her fear of being uninsured most of her life, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, it was a really scary time because I didn't have access to healthcare, and I thought if I get COVID, I can't pay for emergency visits to the ER, like I can't.
Velasquez is a DACA recipient and has been advocating for immigrant health care expansion for years. She says a new rule announced by the White House on Friday expanding the Affordable Care Act to include DACA recipients is long overdue.
I know that a lot of people are going to feel so much relief.
Many DACA recipients, like Velasquez, get health insurance through their jobs. A recent survey by the National Immigration Law Center says 27% report being uninsured. Critics call the Biden rule an unfair cost burden and a possible strategic move to boost the president's support, particularly among Hispanic voters, whose approval has declined since he took office. San Diego Congressman Juan Vargas disagrees.
It makes no sense to have an unhealthy population that's uninsured. You want a healthy population that's all insured. The bigger the group, the better. Especially young people like this. I mean, it actually brings down the cost for everybody.
Despite viewing the rule as progress, Tom Wong of the U.S. Immigration Policy Center at the University of California, San Diego says the next step is education.
Approximately 1/4 of DACA recipients are not covered by any kind of health insurance. Over half of uninsured DACA recipients believe they are not eligible for health insurance because of their immigration status. These DACA recipients can now gain coverage. However, the heavy lifting now centers on communicating eligibility to DACA recipients amidst continued legal uncertainty surrounding DACA.
Although an estimated 100,000 uninsured DACA recipients are expected to enroll, Velasquez is among advocates who think they may hesitate to apply out of fear.
we're worried that that would impact the potential for us to be able to apply for citizenship when that time comes. Is like you try not to get any sort of help because that might reflect negatively on your application.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
And today, students at CSU San Marcos joined in the anti-war protests we've seen at campuses across San Diego County. A group called Students for Justice in Palestine helped organize this event. They marched throughout campus calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Students told our media partner KGTV that they were inspired by protests at UC San Diego and SDSU and also wanted to make their voices heard. One student says her parents grew up in Gaza and she has many family members still there.
My message is just you need to show up. I feel very honored, to be honest, that I'm trying my best to show up for my people and show up for my family over there, telling them that they're not alone.
At Sacramento State, the university has agreed to review its investment policies in return for a pro-Palestinian encampment to be cleared on campus. The agreement calls for socially responsible investment. The policy, which does not specifically mention Israel, also says that Sac State will not benefit from companies that profit from ethnic cleansing, genocide, or human rights violations. Students are hoping the whole CSU system will follow suit. The San Diego County Board of Education has made history appointing its first woman as superintendent of schools. Gloria Cereza will lead the county's support for more than 500,000 students. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has her story of perseverance and plans for the future.
Okay, follow me this way. Okay. Dr. Gloria Cereza has an appreciation for artwork that speaks to her soul. Examples of it hang in her workspace at the San Diego County Office of Education.
Here is this beautiful young lady and really like holding the world in her hands.
Among family photos on her desk, there is a picture of this young girl, too. 5-year-old Gloria, enjoying Coronado Beach, a special place she shares with her mother even now.
Both my mother and my father are from Tijuana. I am the first generation born here in the U.S. I remember distinctly what that was like to help my mom study for her citizenship test and to watch her go through that process to become an American citizen.
Congratulations, Dr. Cereza.
In a unanimous vote last night, the San Diego County Board of Education appointed Cereza superintendent, the first woman in the department's 76-year history to hold the job.
I recognize that half of our population are Latino, and to be Mexicana and be in this position, I feel very, very proud.
She has a 3-year contract starting July 1st with a base salary of just over $370,000 a year. The job includes approving school district budgets, calling their elections, and helping with emergencies.
Student guardian.
She has been the county's assistant superintendent of student services and programs, supporting schools in all 42 districts. She started as a substitute teacher in National City, later became a credentialed teacher, and advanced to vice principal in the Poway district. But it was her first week on the job with the county in March 2021 that provided the ultimate test. That's when hundreds of unaccompanied minors seeking asylum were moved from federal detention camps to the San Diego Convention Center in hopes of being reunited with their families.
When I stood in that space and I watched all those girls walk through the door, tired, hungry, afraid, unsure about what was going to happen, and they all look like me.
Now Cereza faces the challenge of school districts having to slash budgets and lay off teachers as federal COVID money runs out and enrollment drops. She will focus on growing the community school model, using state money to bring more outside companies and nonprofits on campus.
There's a school building in every single neighborhood, and so how can we sort of rally around those school buildings to make sure that the students and families there that are in those neighborhoods have access to all of the resources that are available to them?
It's an ambitious plan at a time when the country and education system are challenged like never before. So where is her hope?
Where do I find my hope? This goes back to the question about all the little girls. So where do I find the hope? It's in the kids.
And now many more kids will have a champion they can relate to and who looks like them. MG Perez, KPBS News.
We have a correction to a story that we aired yesterday about the lawsuit filed by victims of the January floods. The story said Mountain View apartment residents had also sued the city. Those residents have not yet filed their lawsuit.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, Israel bombards Rafah as its leaders respond with defiance to President Biden freezing some weapons deliveries. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
KPBS has been proud to present the GI Film Festival, showcasing the stories of our military and veterans. Well, tonight, there is a screening of Interpreters Wanted, examining the important role interpreters played in the war in Afghanistan.
But what I was doing was very good, and I'm proud of it. I was helping my people, my country, and as well the U.S. military, to do good things, right?
The film follows two Afghan brothers, Saifullah and Ismail, who served with the U.S. Army back in 2009, and their struggle for safety under the Taliban's rule. Robert Ham directed, edited, and produced the film, and he says that he became close friends with the brothers. When they failed to receive their special immigrant visas that would get them access to America, they reached out wanting help. Ham says interpreters played a crucial role during the war.
We don't know the culture, we don't know the language, and so there is literally no way to connect with the people without these men and women who are on the front lines with us.
The festival runs through Saturday at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park. For a schedule of events, you can visit gifilmfestivalsd.org. Weeds infesting canals are a constant battle in Imperial County, so its main water provider is calling for reinforcements. KPBS Imperial Valley reporter Corey Suzuki says the agency is raising an army of tiny underwater gardeners.
To fight the weeds, the Imperial Irrigation District is creating a new generation of grass carp, a plant-eating river fish originally from East Asia. The carp can eat a ton, more than twice their body weight in a day, making them a lot more efficient than scraping the canals with heavy machinery. Pablo Cortez is with the district, or IID.
We put them into the canals, and they basically become IID workers. Because at that point, they go straight into the canals, and then they hopefully consume the aquatic vegetation.
In the wild, grass carp are considered a major invasive species that can spread unchecked and wreck ecosystems. But Cortez's team raises their carp at a hatchery in El Centro. Here, they use a special process, fertilizing the eggs under intense pressure. That alters their genetic material, blocking their ability to reproduce. Using sterilized grass carp to control water weeds might sound futuristic, but it's pretty common in parts of the county. The district has been doing it since the 80s. Some experts do think there needs to be more research on the broader ecological impact. Eric Dibble is a retired professor of aquatic ecology at Mississippi State University.
We need more research in looking at direct and indirect impacts that an agent like grass carp going into a system has, in order to better evaluate what it's actually doing and the impacts that it's going to do to that community that you introduce it to.
Still, Dibble says it's good that states like California tightly regulate the use of grass carp. And Cortez says the team is careful to blood test each batch of fish to make sure they're sterilized before releasing any of them into the canals. In El Centro, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
Well, let's get you right down to it. Let's start you off with your weather headlines, what you would need to know over these next few days. Temperatures are going to stay relatively steady there west of the mountains, even as we head into the weekend. Now, you're going to feel a little warmer there if you're in the mountains or say deserts, though thankfully it is going to stay dry here throughout the weekend. I do want to take us out to the area tonight just to show you where we're going to be dropping down to. Oceanside, you're down to 55, San Diego 59, Ramona 48, Borrego Springs 61, and Mount Laguna you'll drop off to 44 tonight. Now as we head into Friday, again, we're going to be warmer, especially for the mountains and deserts as we head into the weekend. You're not going to notice too much of a shift there closer towards the coast, but overall it's still going to be nice and comfortable. San Diego County, tomorrow's forecast here, Oceanside you're at 70, San Diego 68, Ramona 77, Mount Laguna 57, and while Borrego Springs you're in the 90s. Like I said, temperatures staying relatively steady there along the coast. You'll see a slight boost in the mercury. We're still tackling some areas of low clouds though over these next few days, so heads up if you're going to be out really late or really early, you may run into some lowered visibility. Now by Sunday we're at 72. Monday we're topping off at 69, still flirting with 70 though. Similar story as we head into Tuesday. Further inland, well, temperatures a little warmer by the end of the weekend. Not a bad Mother's Day on tap. We'll have some sunshine. It's going to be nice, even pushing 80 almost. Now we will start to fall back down again Monday and Tuesday, but overall really not too bad for those areas further inland with a high of 75 Monday, 72 on Tuesday. Let's take you out to the deserts where I told you you'll start to feel a little bit of that warmth, right? And you see it with the numbers, 57 Friday, 58 Saturday. We are up to 60 by Sunday. Basically stay the same as we head into Monday with a high of 57, but we really start to warm up as we head into Tuesday with a high of 71. Now for the deserts, you'll note again through the end of the weekend, we're gradually warming. We're even flirting with the triple digits again by the end of the weekend. Make sure, of course, you're staying hydrated and drinking plenty of water. It's going to be sunny as well. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bri Guy.
Louisiana's famous music, food, and lifestyle are coming to San Diego once again. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says it will feel like Mardi Gras in May at the 21st annual Gator By The Bay Festival.
Get dressed up, ready to go.
There's plenty of bayou culture on tap for the West Coast, with a strong Louisiana kick of sights, smells, and sounds.
Every time I think about you, babe, you're the one I'm dreaming of.
The Bayou Brothers are a local band who have been proudly playing at the Gator By The Bay Festival since its inception over 2 decades ago.
You cannot be sad when you're listening to Zydeco music. It makes you move, it makes you want to dance, and that's why I fell in love with the music.
And that regional sound has some distinct features.
Zydeco band is not a Zydeco band unless you have a rubboard and an accordion. So these are the unique features for a Zydeco band. We have also the drummer and the bass player and the guitar player.
As for the flavor of the festival, local businesses like the Gumbo Pot will be serving up their Cajun and Creole specialties, says chef and owner Richard Taylor.
You can eat this and cook it at home and have a good meal, but man, when you eat this Creole Cajun food and you have the music, I mean, that's what New Orleans is all about.
10,000 pounds of crawfish are being trucked in from Louisiana for the festival.
I have 2 parent sauces, Creole red sauce, the mother sauce, and then a brown sauce, the father sauce. And from these sauces, I create the whole menu.
Taylor was cooking his signature 3 dishes, gumbo, jambalaya, and red beans ahead of the event. They were made with an assortment of meats, seafood, and vegetables, and the dishes tie him back to his family.
My family's from New Orleans. My grandmother's from a small town going north towards Baton Rouge called Bayogola. It's on the River Road. Probably if you go by now, you just drive past it. But it's a little small town, and then they migrated to Los Angeles.
Taking place at Spanish Landing Park, across from San Diego International Airport, the stage is set for the 4-day festival, which kicks off Thursday, says event producer Peter Oliver.
This is the new Mardi Gras stage. It used to be all covered in a big tent, and we decided to open it up because the type of music that we're going to have at this stage really warrants it.
Now in its 21st year, the festival is still growing and changing. This year, they're expecting over 15,000 attendees.
So this is a bump up from what we started and have been doing for the last 10 or 15 years.
There will be more than 100 musical acts on 7 stages, including award-winning blues, Cajun, and Zydeco artists, and other musical genres. Many of the bands will be local, and others are coming from the South. So like the food, it's one big melting pot.
For musicians, we play our gigs and then we go home, but here we get together. It's kind of like a big party, and everybody just has such a good time.
Oliver says with plenty of colorful fun, the festival is about as close as you can get to Louisiana culture outside of the state itself.
You get excited after you've walked around for a little bit and you say, dang, I want to get something to eat. I want to dance a little bit. I want to shake it up. I want to have fun. I want to cause a commotion. And that's what we do. We offer everybody the opportunity to cause a commotion.
This year's Gator by the Bay Festival runs from May 9th through 12th. Kids under 18 get in for free with a paying adult, and Oliver says all who come will experience a sense of joie de vivre, the joy of life. Tickets can be purchased at gatorbythebay.com. Jacob Air, KPBS News.
Well, that looks like a lot of fun. And if you want to find out more about events happening this weekend, you can check out KPBS Midday Edition podcast, because that is where you'll find the weekend preview with a roundup of all of the best in arts and culture around the county. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Other streamers are trying live sports, but Netflix is experimenting with live comedy and a talk show. NPR's Morning Edition discusses what's behind this pivot and whether it's working. And KPBS Roundtable is speaking to 2 student journalists from UC San Diego covering the encampment and anti-war protests on their own campuses. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.